Good evening again, everybody. Got these few stories that I came across that I wanted to get out there. First, we have this article that was just released by Science Alert News, and this article was released on the 30th of January, which is today. Well, yesterday, a couple hours ago. So it says, Earth's magnetic poles are set to swap places and we're totally unprepared. When north becomes south. And it goes in to say Earth's magnetic field surrounds our planet like an invisible force field, protecting life from harmful solar radiation by deflecting charged particles away. Far from being constant, this field is continuously changing. Indeed, our planet's history includes at least several hundred global magnetic reversals where north and south magnetic poles swap places. So when the next one's happening, how will it affect the life on Earth? During a reversal, the magnetic field won't be zero, but will assume a weaker and more complex form. It may fall to 10% of the present-day strength and have a magnetic poles at the equator or even the simultaneous existence of multiple north and south magnetic poles. Geomagnetic reversals occur a few times every million years on average. However, the interval between reversals is very irregular and can range up to tens of millions of years. There can also be temporary and incomplete reversals, known as events and excursions, in which magnetic poles move away from the geographic poles, perhaps even crossing the equator, before returning back to their original locations. The last full reversal, the Bruns Matoyama, occurred around 780,000 years ago. A temporal reversal, the Lechamp event, occurred around 41,000 years ago. It lasted less than 1,000 years, with the actual change of polarity lasting around 250 years. Power cut or mass extinction. The alteration in the magnetic field during a reversal will weaken its shielding effect, allowing heightened levels of radiation on and above Earth's surface. Were this to happen today, the increase of charged particles reaching Earth would result in increased risk for satellites, aviation, and ground-based electrical infrastructure. Geomagnetic storms driven by the interaction of anomalous, large eruptions of solar energy with our magnetic field give us a foretaste of what we can expect with a weakened magnetic shield. 2003, the so-called Halloween storm caused local electricity grids blackouts in Sweden, required the rerouting of flights to avoid communication blackouts and radiation risk, and disrupted satellites and communication systems. But this storm was minor in comparison with the storms of the recent past, such as the 1859 Carrington event, which caused aurora as far south as the Caribbean. The impact of a major storm on today's electronic infrastructure is not fully known. Of course, any time spent with electricity, heating, air conditioning, GPS, or internet would have a major impact. Widespread blackouts could result in economic disruption, measuring in tens of billions of US dollars a day. In terms of life on Earth and a direct impact of reversal on our species, we cannot definitively predict what will happen, as modern humans did not exist at the time of the last full reversal. Several studies have tried to link past reversals with mass extinctions, suggesting some reversals and episodes of extended volcanism could be driven by a common cause. However, there is no evidence of any impending cataclysmic volcanism, and so we would only likely have to contend with the electromagnetic impact if the field does reverse relatively soon. We do know that many animal species have some form of magnoreception that enables them to sense the Earth's magnetic fields. They may use this to assist the long-distance navigation during migration, but it's unclear what impact a reversal might have on such species. What is clear is that early humans did manage to live through the Lechamp event, and life itself has survived the hundreds of full reversals evidenced in the geological record. Can we predict the geomagnetic reversals? The simple fact that we are overdue for a full reversal and the fact that Earth's field is currently decreasing at a rate of 5% per century has led to the suggestion that the field may reverse within the next 2,000 years, but pinning down an exact date, at least for now, will be difficult. So if they're overdue, then where where does this 2,000-year projection come from? Earth's magnetic field is generated within the liquid core of our planet by the slow churning of molten iron. Like the atmosphere and oceans, the way in which it moves is governed by the laws of physics. We should therefore be able to predict the weather of the core by tracking this movement, just like we can predict real weather by looking at the atmosphere and the ocean. A reversal can then be likened to a particular type of storm in the core where the dynamics of magnetic field go haywire, at least for a short while, before settling down again. The difficulties of predicting the weather beyond a few days are widely known, despite us living within and directly observing the atmosphere. Yet predicting Earth's core is far more difficult prospect, principally because it's buried beneath 3,000 kilometers of rock, such that our observations are scant and indirect. However, we are not completely blind. We know that the major composition of material inside the core, and that is liquid. A global network of ground-based observatories and orbiting satellites also measure how the magnetic field is changing, which gives us insight into how the liquid core is moving, such as these reversals that are taking place and the anomaly that was recorded a few weeks back in the jet stream. The recent discovery of a jet stream within the core highlights our evolving ingenuity and increasing ability to measure and infer the dynamics of the core. Coupled with numerical simulations and laboratory experiments to study the fluid dynamics of the planet's interior, our understanding is developing at a rapid rate. And that was just released. Was released yesterday on the 30th. So that is the most up-to-date current news article by Science Alert, which is, a leader in the science community with news. So let's check this one now. Putin worry about Nibiru deal with Trump. This was also before its news. Putin worry about Nibiru deal with Trump. In June, former KGB and GRU agent Strelnikov Isaac Stepanovich risked his life by going public with information about the dark star known as Nibiru. His shocking information provided a glimpse of how Russia and formerly the Soviet Union wanted to warn the world about Nibiru, but was thwarted by the Western threats of a nuclear holocaust. His startling revelation laid the foundation for a series of articles proving that for over 30 years, a panic-stricken White House has desperately sought to prevent scientific evidence about Nibiru from reaching the public. Russia, on the other hand, has argued in favor of public disclosure rather than rehash the content of those articles in this piece. Links to each article in chronological order can be found beneath this piece. To summarize, the Obama administration begged for help from an unlikely ally, Donald J. Trump, who negotiated an 11th-hour deal with Russian President Vladimir Putin in exchange for Putin's eternal silence on the Nibiru topic. Donald Trump promised to dismantle the Nibiru cover-up and go public as his first presidential act. And as we remember during his inaugural speech, him, making a quote about discovering, what's going on in space with a wink. And it says, now, Stepanovich provides new information hinting at turmoil within the Kremlin. According to the former agent Stepanovich, Putin has received questionable information causing him to question Trump's sincerity. Within a few days of the Putin-Trump agreement, a series of memos began arriving at the Russian embassy in Washington. The documents were in a diplomatic pouch labeled "for Putin's eyes only." When civilization collapses, he predicts, the world will go back to barter. Urges everyone to have still sealed in the pouches. These confidential documents were placed aboard the first available flight and flown directly to Moscow, Stepanovich said. A courier stood ready to retrieve the documents, hand-deliver them to President Putin. That's why President Putin knows, only President Putin knows, but he became extremely distressed reading the information contained therein. His hands, they say, shook visibly. This is a very grave and dangerous situation for both Russia and the United States. Stepanovich admits he never saw the original documents, but insists copies were surreptitiously created and leaked beyond the Kremlin's walls. He viewed one such facsimile. It contained evidence that Putin had been deceived by Trump, who had no intention of publicly disclosing information about Nibiru. Even though these papers were signed anonymously, Stepanovich told us, our source, there is strong evidence that they are fraudulent, likely an attempt to defame Trump, who would be behind such a thing. This is easy to guess. Someone within the Clinton campaign, possibly Hillary, the witch, Clinton herself. Hillary Clinton's motive is painfully obvious. She despises Putin, having called him a demon. She has expressed hatred toward Putin's support for Donald Trump. To top it off, she holds Putin responsible for leaking information about her poor health, in addition to potentially damaging emails that could derailed her campaign to the press. There is much animosity between this Clinton lady and President Putin, Stepanovich said. She is the most likely suspect. She wishes to destroy Trump and Putin's friendship, thinking it might aid her chances of reaching the White House. If that happens, of course, there is no chance she will talk about Nibiru, and President Putin's hands will be forced. He will either disclose, a state of war will exist between our nations, or both. This Hillary is, crazy, da-da-da-da. So it just continues to basically define this report that was given to Putin. And then we have one more that I wanted to cover. We have Trump admits Nibiru is real, signs executive orders. This is dated the 21st of January. During his historic inaugural address to the American people, President Donald J. Trump hinted at Nibiru's reality, giving a sly but affirmative wink to millions of people who have eschewed mainstream science and embraced the Nibiru truth. While speaking about the future of American prosperity, President Trump slipped in a comment, "We will unlock the mysteries of space," a poignant remark that served as a rallying cry for Nibiru believers across the world. President Trump stopped short of full disclosure for obvious reasons. The eyes of the world were upon him. Our Washington source added his thoughts. It's obvious Trump is deeply worried about Nibiru. Our source said, since Obama burned the Nibiru dossiers, Trump knows he is facing an uphill battle. He said what he could. His comment about unlocking space mysteries was a direct reference to the Nibiru cover-up. He had to say something. He couldn't say nothing. Friends and enemies lurked all around. If he had said nothing at all, Nibiru believers would have felt disenfranchised. If he had said too much, his enemies would have sprung from the shadows. He struck the right balance. Across the country, Nibiru believers rejoiced. Reginald Klopscott, a former merchant marine who operates a Nibiru survival camp in Missouri, said Trump's remark was a wake-up call to all Nibiru debunkers. Recruitment, he says, has skyrocketed following Trump's inaugural address. You ain't gonna believe it, Klopscott said. After Trump talked, we got 2 new members. We're getting ready for that Nibiru. I read somewhere it's made of hardened tritium, so we are fortifying our bunkers. I know that President Trump will soon tell us everything. In Washington, President Trump had a hectic day. He was sworn in, attended a lengthy parade, joined his wife at 2 inaugural balls, and late in the evening took his first steps into the Oval Office. He got right to work, signing several executive orders, 2 gutted parts of Obamacare, and our White House source confirmed that President Trump signed at least 2 additional executive orders, one of which dealt with terminating the Nibiru cover-up. With the stroke of his pen, President Trump nullified 30 years of Nibiru secrecy. The executive order rescinded Ronald Reagan's Nibiru Secrecy Act of 1983, an obsolete regulation imposing stiff penalties, 50 years imprisonment, and unspecified fines on Nibiru whistleblowers. That order was controversial. Our Washington source said Reagan went overboard after NASA's IRAS detected Nibiru in 1983. Reagan signed the executive order. It forbade any public servant, scientist, or person with true and accurate information about Nibiru from ever mentioning the word Nibiru. Reagan even had the word Nibiru removed from dictionaries. Check for yourself. You won't find the word Nibiru in any dictionary anywhere. Our source was correct. Neither Webster's nor the Oxford English Dictionary mentions the word Nibiru, although it is a common word. The Oval Office chatter suggests Trump is pacing himself. He does not want to steamroll into anything that might backfire and provide the opposition with the ammunition to use against him. Regardless, Trump has stepped into a larger universe, and his one-day actions clearly illustrate a steadfast resolve seldom seen in fledgling presidents. So, I'm not even going to go through and summarize these. I just wanted to present them for face value, and what, for what they are. I do have some other facts to add of my own, and that is with this pole shift. A lot of one of the big things that people are missing is provided the poles do flip flop. Our rotation currently is going counterclockwise, and when the poles flip, it's got to be understood that the rotation will change as well, so we will be going clockwise. And it's recorded in many ancient histories about the sun rising in the east and the west, and the east and the west, and this is one of the things that accompany pole shifts. So during this period, our magnetic field is basically, they said that in the first report is a mainstream science report, and like I said, it was released yesterday. Well, it's 1 o'clock in the morning here, so yesterday being an hour ago. So it talks about how they have discovered an internal jet stream within the Earth that they hadn't previously known about. Well, ironically, these set of visions that I just released earlier this morning, I was talking about the jet stream and the dragon and the Chinese one with the dragon and all these things, and I was led to this Apophis and Typhon connection, and it just so happens to coincide with everything that's been taking place, and I'm not gonna rehash what I was speaking about in the video yesterday, but it's just something is definitely up with the jet stream due to the magnetic field, and we should be keeping a close watch on what's going on, so as to see where we are in this transition. And another thing that I said that I had seen in that vision was a spinning black hole, and then I said I seen something about seeing a ladder sticking up out of like a giant hole or something, and another vision that I had seen myself tethered between the sun and the earth, like I had said, with my arms outright between, in this stream of energy that was light, and I was basically tethered between the both, in the same position as Jesus. And I believe that these energy vortexes that come from the sun, when we no longer have a magnetic field, that they will be touching down. It's similar to when you touch when you're at like Spencer's or something in the mall, and you put your hand on that one, the ball that has the electric bolts that go shoot to your fingertips. If any of you have seen them, it's a lot similar to that. And I believe that energy will more or less, that's what they speak of as the Rainbow Bridge or Jacob's Ladder, things of that nature. And it basically involves your chakras and your energy, your essence, basically your frequency rising and basically ascending, so to speak, into these energy vortexes. And as I believe, this whole. Well, I'll save that for another topic. But yeah, that's just the logistics behind what I see happening. This is obviously about magnetic fields. So I will briefly just read through this to give you an understanding of what I'm trying to get at. A magnet produces a vector field. Now, coincidentally again, in the vision that I uploaded yesterday, or in this sequence of visions that I was shown, I said a vector, something about a vector. Now, as I was trying to think about what a vector means, I know that there's things like vector masks and things of that nature, and Photoshop and stuff like that. But I really hadn't put the magnetic vector association together, and it wasn't until just now, musing of all these thoughts, I decided to look up exactly the correlation between magnetics and the different spin, the rotation. So, what is a magnetic field? A magnet produces a vector field, the magnetic field, at all points in the space around it. It can be defined by measuring the force the field exerts on a moving charged particle, such as an electron. The force, F, is equal to the charge, Q, times the speed of the particle, times the magnitude of the field, B, or F equals QV by B, where the direction of F is at right angles to both V and B as a result of the cross product. This defines the magnetic's field strength and direction at any point. What creates the magnetic field? A magnetic field can be created with moving charges, such as a current carrying wire. A magnetic field can also be created by the spin magnetic dipole movement and by the orbital magnetic dipole movement of an electron within an atom. What is the relationship between current flow and magnetic fields? This is the right-hand rule for magnetic field from flowing current and for magnetic field in a coil. When current flows in a wire, a magnetic field is created around the wire. To visualize this, take your right hand, curl the fingers, and stick the thumb straight out. Now point your thumb in the direction of the current flowing in the wire, using conventional current, where current flows from the positive end of a battery to the negative end of the battery. Note, electrons flow from the negative end of a battery to the positive end, and this is called electron current instead of conventional current. The direction your fingers are curved around the wire is in the direction of the magnetic field around the wire. For example, if the current were coming straight out of this page towards you, your thumb would be pointing towards you and your fingers would indicate a counterclockwise direction to the magnetic field around the wire. Keyword there, counterclockwise. So here's two diagrams. This shows the magnetic field around a wire carrying current. This shows the strength of the magnetic field around the wire. It is stronger the closer you are to the wire. The X inside the wire indicates that the current is flowing into the wire away from you. This shows the field around two wires side by side that are carrying current in the same direction. The wires are attracted to each other and will pull themselves closer together. So, when they carry current in the same direction, they repel. This shows the magnetic field strength around the two wires. Current is flowing into both wires. Notice how the magnetic field is slightly stronger on the side of the wire away from the other wire. This is showing that the magnetic field around the wire affects how the current flows in neighboring wires. This shows the field around two wires, side by side, that are carrying current in opposite directions. The wires are repelling each other and will push themselves further apart. This shows the magnetic field strength around the two wires. Current is flowing into the wires on the right and out of the wire on the left. Notice how the magnetic field is slightly stronger on the side of the wire facing the other wire. This is showing that the magnetic field around the wire affects how the current flows in neighboring wires. If you're interested in reading this whole article, it's at coolmagnetman.com. The reason that this applies to what I'm saying is because when this reversal takes place, it will be, just that, a reversal of the magnetic field, and providing, when the pole shift takes place, we are now moving at a counterclockwise direction. When the poles swap, will be reversed to go clockwise rather than counterclockwise. So I am convinced, just through me saying just the vector. I said vector in that video is from the first week of November, and I clearly said vector, and you can go and listen to it again. And this is what's to take place. So going back to the Bible, how it says that basically the devil is given control over this realm, and he governs it. Well, the devil is negative, and the fall of man, or the fall of consciousness that took place thousands of years ago, was the reversal of this field. So we live in a field that is basically the opposite of our nature, and essentially creates the negative. So we live in the negative, and everything is basically created in reverse. So that is why a lot of times, like I was speaking about with the Illuminati and all these secret societies, they basically get their power because they understand the reversals and the power of reversals. What we are about to experience is a full-fledged move back into full consciousness, where not only is our physical body, our physiological body, and our energy as beings going to be changed, but the energy of the earth is going to be changed. And if you imagine, if you can visualize this, then you can visualize, the field reversing. Imagine the effect that is going to have on us. And to me it's equivalent to dreaming and waking consciousness. And I've been shown through these visions, and through these dreams, and through everything that's been taking place, the events. And as I often have had this dream of moving around without gravity, like I'm able to, like I'm jumping from treetop to treetop. Like the way I move, I'm able to jump, but it's like jumping in space. I just keep moving, and it's I've had many other ones where I'm being pulled off the ground and I'm holding onto the grass, and I'm trying to pull myself forward, holding onto the grass. And that's the way that I was trying to move, was by gripping the grass and pulling myself forward. And I believe in when this when this null zone takes place, that will happen, because when the reversal takes place, we spin from negative to positive. There's got to be a 0 point there. There's got to be a prime meridian. There's got to be a 0 point there, in the space between positive and negative. And when we hit that, it's essentially going to be our shield down, and outer space is kept out by our magnetic field. So when outer space basically becomes inner space for the brief period between the reversal, we're going to be subjected to basically being pulled, and it's crazy. But when this reversal takes place, it's important that we understand that we need to be able to use the conscious thought that we basically use to dream. So this is one of the reasons that I'm writing this book. I apologize for the sound quality and the scattered transmission of this. I kind of just go on one thing and go on another, but there's just so much that it's hard for me to relay it. And I just literally started making videos 2 months ago, and the interview with Rex was the first interview that I've done ever. And I will, as time goes on, I'll start being able to relay the message better. So I appreciate those of you that are sticking in and holding in there. Obviously you see that there's something to this, and you can sense that I'm not lying or trying to deceive anybody. That I truly believe this with every fiber of my being. And that's pretty much the reason that I'm writing this book, is so I can get everything consolidated, step by step, thing by thing, every detail that supports it. That way it's easier for people to understand and to be able to get it out there. I've never imagined myself writing a book, for one. Many of you don't know too much about my background, but I'm not a book writing type of person. I've read numerous books. I mean, I thoroughly enjoy reading, and I have, my little personal library that I have, is completely filled with books that I find interesting, like, books on, like, Edgar Cayce and the Dead Sea Scrolls and Zecharia Sitchin, and just all these numerous books that have pieces of the truth. And regardless, I just never envisioned myself writing a book. And I began writing music because I'm into music. I do music, I write music, everything. And that kind of set the stage for this book. And everybody that I know has encouraged me to write this book for years. And I don't have the attention span, I guess, to do it. And so I began writing this book, and the reason I haven't started it is because I knew it was going to take a lot of work, and it's going to be a lot of typing or writing, and I can't leave things out. I have to explain things in every minute detail. And I've always, like, when I talk, obviously I'm long-winded, and I try to explain things so people understand them, precisely as I'm explaining them. But in this book, I literally took the time to describe everything that needs to be known to be able to handle and survive this. This isn't like some scheme, some get rich quick scheme, or some book like The Secret. The Secret was complete BS, and the complete fundamental belief in the secret. It's just, I mean, there's way more to it than what they lead on, and the manner in which that they try to portray how this is used is 100% wrong. And like I said, when I started doing music, I wasn't able to. My first time performing, I had to go up in front of about 3,000 people, and it was very awkward for me because as a musician, you have to entertain, and to be an entertainer, you have to basically put on an act. And I've never been good at acting. I'm not a liar. I don't. It was awkward. It's awkward for me to portray or to act like something else. I feel, just like it's just amusing to me to watch people act, and most people act all day long and lie about everything, and it's just whatever. But I have never been that type of person. My entire life, I've always been a logical, reasonable, honest person that no bullshit, and I don't have time to hear what anybody has to say because it's usually bullshit, and it's just not something that interests me. But regardless, I took the time to write this, and within it is a step-by-step basis to give you a foundation of how to start utilizing what I speak of. And it gives the history of this energy and everything that I've been shown. I mean, this book contains. I hope that it doesn't get stopped from being published. Honestly, because of what it holds. And you will not find any other source of information like this. I promise you that. And I guarantee that, after reading this, you will be able to develop these powers, or whatever you want to call them. And, I'm trying to get it out there as quick as possible. I will soon have a link and where you can get it, but, time is running out. And, I basically... Things don't get done usually until there's an urgency behind, and that's basic psychology. That's what the government does. They create an urgency, and then with that urgency, then they create a solution, and that's just basic fundamental psychology. So the urgency is there, and it's gaining in momentum. So enough about that. I just felt it important to state that, because this is truly as the opening says, that this book is truly life-changing in scope, and will alter the way you think. And I can guarantee that by the end of it, you will grasp what it is that I talk about, and you'll have a foundation of how to begin using it and applying it. And it is just amazing to be able to give this to the world, and I truly feel privileged to be able to do that. But just to briefly try to wrap this up and give a conclusion, there is going to be a change in energy, and that change in energy is going to be accompanied by a change in thought. And we're not going to die. Some of us will, but there is no death. So upon dying, you will still exist. But for those of us that are physically here, understanding what's taking place when it occurs is going to be the difference between souls getting lost and souls finding their way. And you know, it really doesn't matter, because eventually you will find the way, whether it's in this lifetime, or in 20 down the road, or maybe a million years down the road. Eventually all things will move forward and come to this. But it's just, it gets to a point where you analyze things into oblivion and realize that it doesn't even really matter, because at the end of the day, the future is set, more or less. And we have a limited amount of free will involved, but the use of that free will is basically the chains that keep us binded to enslavement, so to say. But I encourage you to go and research the relationships of different magnetic fields, and how positive, negative, and neutral, and all the different applications and behaviors, because that will give you an understanding of most things in life. Because they talk about duality, but there's three parts, and there is the duality, but there is also a point where the duality is no longer dual, it's singularity. When the positive and the negative come together, that is singularity, or 0 point, whatever you want to call it. And that is what we are moving towards, is a brief moment of singularity. And many souls at the point of singularity will ascend, and many will not. And some have, some want to stay behind and help the human race ascend, and some are ready now and understand that what it is. So I've been talking long enough. I have some more content I'll be uploading soon. So as usual, stay vigilant and stay tuned.